They thought she was just another quiet black girl who wouldn't fight back. But when the school bully made the mistake of laying his hands on her, he didn't just embarrass himself, he unleashed a storm he never saw coming. Within seconds, he went from laughing at her, to begging her for mercy. This is the story of how one girl turned pain into power, silence into strength, and made her entire school witness the true meaning of resilience. Maya Johnson was the kind of girl people underestimated the moment they looked at her. 16 years old, tall with skin like polished mahogany, she carried herself with the quiet grace of someone who knew more than she ever said. She wasn't flashy, didn't wear the loud clothes some of her classmates did, and rarely spoke in class unless she was called on. Teachers liked her, because her essays showed depth, her answers showed sharpness, and her test scores kept her at the top of the honor roll. But kids her age? They often mistook her silence for weakness. At Riverside High, where appearances carried more weight than character, Maya was labeled the quiet black girl, the one who sat in the corner of the cafeteria with her headphones on, humming to songs only she could hear. And then there was Derek Mason, the self-proclaimed king of the school, a 17-year-old senior with a football jacket, a loud laugh, and a cruel streak that fed off humiliating others. His friends loved him because his jokes kept the spotlight on him, and teachers gave him passes because he scored touchdowns on Friday nights. Derek was untouchable, or so he believed. And that belief only grew stronger the more he picked on kids he considered easy targets, the nerd who stuttered, the overweight freshman, the shy girl with braces. And recently, his attention shifted toward Maya. At first, it was little things. Kicking her backpack in the hallway, mocking her braids by calling them mop strings, or making loud noises when she passed by to draw laughs from the crowd. Maya ignored him, her face a mask of calm even when her chest burned with anger. She had learned long ago from her grandmother that dignity was a form of resistance. Never let fools drag you down to their level, Grandma Pearl always said. But Derek wasn't just a fool, he was a predator who mistook silence for surrender. And on one ordinary Tuesday afternoon in the cafeteria, he decided to push too far. The room was buzzing with chatter and clinking trays when Derek and his crew spotted Maya sitting alone, quietly eating her sandwich. They approached like a pack of wolves circling prey. Derek smirked and leaned over her table, snatching her juice box. "What's this? Apple juice?" "Don't mind if I do," he said loudly, squeezing it so it sprayed across her food. His friends roared with laughter, some even pulling out their phones to record. Maya calmly reached for a napkin and began cleaning up, her face expressionless. Derek wasn't satisfied. He grabbed her backpack, lifted it high, and dumped its contents onto the floor. Books, notebooks, and pens scattered everywhere. Still, Maya said nothing, her eyes fixed on him in a way that unsettled some who were watching. "What, you too good to talk, princess?" Derek sneered, stepping closer. "Or maybe you just scared." And that was when he made the mistake that would change everything. He placed his hand on her shoulder and shoved. It wasn't hard enough to knock her down, but it was enough to cross a line. The cafeteria went silent, every student holding their breath. In that split second, the girl everyone thought was weak finally stood up. When Maya rose from her chair, it wasn't with the frantic energy of someone cornered, it was with the steady, deliberate movement of a storm about to break. Her eyes locked on Derek's with a calm intensity that made even his friends shift uncomfortably. "Don't touch me," she said softly, her voice low but sharp enough to cut through the silence of the cafeteria. Derek laughed nervously, trying to maintain his bravado. "Or what? You gonna write me an essay?" he mocked, shoving her again, this time harder. And then, it happened. In less than 5 seconds, Maya's composure transformed into controlled power. With reflexes honed from the martial arts classes her uncle had quietly enrolled her in years ago, she grabbed Derek's wrist, twisted it behind his back, and spun him against the table so fast his tray went flying. Gasps erupted around the room. Derek yelped, his arrogance crumbling into shock as Maya held him pinned effortlessly. He tried to wriggle free, but she tightened her grip, pressing his arm at an angle that made his knees buckle. "I said don't touch me," she repeated, louder this time, her voice echoing through the cafeteria like a command. Phones were recording, whispers were flying, and Derek's friends didn't know whether to intervene or back away. Maya's strength wasn't just physical, it was the force of someone who had swallowed humiliation for too long and finally unleashed the truth of who she was. Derek, the bully who thrived on others' fear, was now the one trembling, his face twisted in pain. "Okay. Okay. Stop. I'm sorry," he shouted, his voice breaking as the crowd stared in disbelief. The same boy who had strutted down hallways with smug arrogance was now begging for mercy in front of everyone. Maya held him a moment longer, making sure he, and everyone else, understood. Then she released him, her movements controlled and deliberate. Derek stumbled forward, clutching his arm, his face red with embarrassment. His friends muttered excuses, trying to laugh it off, but no one was laughing. The cafeteria had witnessed the fall of a tyrant. Maya bent down, calmly picked up her scattered books, placed them back into her backpack, and sat down to finish her lunch as if nothing had happened. The room buzzed with whispers and awe, but she ignored it all. She didn't need to explain herself, her actions had spoken louder than any words ever could. News traveled faster than wildfire in high school, and by the next morning, everyone knew what had happened in the cafeteria. The video of Derek begging for mercy had already gone viral on social media, circulating with captions like "Bully gets owned" and "Don't mess with Maya." For once, Maya wasn't invisible. People stared at her in the hallways, not with mockery, but with respect. Some whispered, "That's her," while others gave her nods of approval. But with visibility came mixed reactions. Teachers called her to the office, questioning the incident. Maya explained calmly, showing no regret. "He put his hands on me. I defended myself," she said, her tone unwavering. The principal frowned, torn between disciplining her for fighting and acknowledging that Derek had crossed a line. Eventually, she was let off with a warning, while Derek was suspended for a week. That punishment alone shocked the student body. Derek had always gotten away with everything. Now, even his untouchable image was crumbling. Meanwhile, Maya found herself approached by people she had never spoken to before. The freshman boy Derek used to torment thanked her quietly. A group of girls asked if she could teach them self-defense. And for the first time, she realized that standing up for herself had empowered others, too. At home, when her grandmother heard the story, she didn't scold her as Maya had feared. Instead, Grandma Pearl nodded, her eyes filled with both pride and warning. "You didn't start it, but you finished it. That's what matters. But remember, child, true strength isn't just in your hands, it's in your choices." Those words stayed with Maya, reminding her that power carried responsibility. Meanwhile, Derek returned from suspension humiliated. His swagger was gone, replaced with a quietness that unsettled his old friends. He avoided Maya in the halls, his eyes dropping whenever she passed. The boy who once thrived on other people's fear now lived in his own. And while some felt sorry for him, others saw it as justice long overdue. Maya didn't seek revenge or glory, she simply went back to her routine. But the ripple effect of that one moment continued to spread, changing the dynamics of the entire school. Weeks later, Maya's story had grown beyond Riverside High. The video had reached local news outlets, and reporters called her the girl who stood up to the bully. Some praised her as a symbol of courage, while others criticized the school for allowing violence, ignoring the deeper truth of why it happened. Maya remained grounded, refusing to let the noise change who she was. In the quiet of her room, she journaled about her dreams, her goals, and her hope to one day use her voice to fight for those who couldn't. What she didn't realize was that her moment of defiance had already planted seeds of change. The school started offering workshops on bullying and self-defense. Students felt more confident speaking up when something was wrong. And even Derek, humbled and stripped of his false pride, began to reflect. One afternoon, he approached Maya by her locker. His shoulders were slumped, his voice quieter than she had ever heard. "I was wrong," he admitted, not looking her in the eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm sorry." Maya studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Just don't do it again, to me or anyone else." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was closure. Derek walked away, and for the first time, Maya didn't feel like prey or predator. She felt like herself, strong, whole, unshakable. The girl who once sat alone in silence had become a voice of strength, not by seeking the spotlight, but by refusing to be diminished. And though she never asked for it, her story became a lesson etched into the memory of everyone who witnessed it, that sometimes, the quietest people carry the loudest power. That bullies are not as invincible as they believe. And that when you put your hands on the wrong person, especially the wrong black girl, you may discover that 5 seconds of fire can change everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Vibes for more powerful and emotional stories that inspire change. Your support helps us spread kindness, courage, and strength to the world. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story that could change your perspective. Drop a comment below. Do you believe bullies can truly change if they face the right person? We'd love to hear your thoughts.